Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you right here on ESPN Radio. 250-plus markets across the United States of America. And, of course, ESPN Radio on Sirius XM. Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Teddy Bruschi, NFL analyst extraordinaire, three-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. He will be on the show a little bit later on today. Talked about these NFC conference championship matchups. And, of course, he'll be doing that about 30 minutes past hour number one. And then, of course, our resident handicapper extraordinaire out of Vegas, R.J. Bell, he'll be on the show with us to handicap the games Vegas style. Looking forward to talking to him as well. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Lots of stuff to get into today. And, of course, I will get into LeBron James and Charles Barkley, calling him a drama queen. I'll respond to that a little bit later on in the show. Plus, at a particular question that I'm interested in presenting to all of you, because I'm interested in hearing your take about that. But like I said, first things first. I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the minority. I am in the minority because I am not caught up in this Tom Brady injury the way everybody else is. I really don't understand that. I'm actually laughing at all of y'all. So let me get this straight. A five-time champion who's been to about 9 AFC championship games, who's 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl appearance, yet another, who is widely recognized, universally recognized, actually, as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, widely recognized as the greatest quarterback ever. I am supposed to believe that this guy named Tom Brady is hurt and he's not practicing. And you know what? He might not be ready for Sunday. I mean, y'all make me laugh. I got to admit it. Y'all actually make me laugh. Tom Brady, this is all a hoax to me. I don't believe any of it. Not a second of it. And my producer, hey, Steven, hey, I hear what you're saying. I totally understand. But however, in light of the news that has come out over the last 24 hours, I mean, do you really think you haven't moved from your position at all? That's a poor imitation of my producer, Jonathan Winthrop, but that's beside the point. The real point is this. No, I have not moved off my position. I think it's all a smokescreen. I think if there was anything serious, we wouldn't even know that he was injured. I think if it was anything serious, we would know that we've got a boatload of stuff to be worried about. That's what I believe. I think there's absolutely nothing to worry about. Tom Brady will be fine. He will be there, ready to go, ready to handle his business. That is what I believe. Chris Hogan will be ready. Brandon Cooks will be ready. Rob Gronkowski will be ready. Danny Amendola will be ready. Deion Lewis will be ready. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I expect. If Tom Brady's going to have trouble, it's going to be because Jacksonville, which has 55 sacks this season, which was terrorizing one quarterback after another all season long, they don't need to send the house in order to get at Tom Brady. They can rush 4 and drop 7 back into the secondary. They've got those kind of skills, that kind of athleticism, which says to me that Deion Lewis is going to need to run the ball relatively effectively. That's what he's going to need to do. Because if he does that, then you got to stack the line of scrimmage a little bit better. And if you do that, that opens up play action, which is going to give Tom Brady more time and more room to operate, which is when he'll be deadly. That is what I foresee. That is what needs to transpire. That is what needs to happen. And if it doesn't go down like that, because they can't run the football effectively, then Tom Brady's going to have a long day because you're going to need to drop back to pass more. You're not going to be able to lean on play action or any other kind of trickery. And as a result, they're going to be able to get at you because those are some rough riders on Jacksonville's defense. I am not trying to disrespect Jacksonville's defense by any stretch of the imagination. I really am not. I know they're big time. They're the number 2 ranked defense in the league. Jalen Ramsey is no joke. Calais Campbell is no joke. Malik Jackson is no joke. Telvin Smith returned a touchdown off of a fumble, a sack fumble by Big Ben Roethlisberger. Miles Jack had an interception against Roethlisberger last week. Barry Church is a former Cowboy, and I'm still sitting here praising him. That's how big time the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is. Barry Church, a former Cowboy, is on this roster, and I'm not accusing him of contamination. That's how big time Jacksonville's defense is. So I got news for you. Make no mistake about it. Big things are on the way. Jacksonville's defense is going to be here for a little while. But am I supposed to believe that Blake Bortles is going to beat Tom Brady? I don't believe it. Because I don't believe the Patriots are going to let Leonard Fournette beat him. I know that he's going to penetrate the line of scrimmage. It's going to come down to McCourty and Chang and those boys and whether or not they can tackle. Chung, rather. I understand. I get it. But I believe they'll pull it off, and I believe the New England Patriots are going to do everything necessary and everything within their power to ensure that Blake Bortles is going to have to be the one who beats them if they're going to miss out on getting to the Super Bowl. In Foxborough, no less. I believe that's what's going to happen. And I don't believe it will. And by the way, A.J. Bouye, listen, he's going to have a better week this week because he ain't going against Antonio Brown. Because we saw what Antonio Brown did to him last week. Brandon Cooks ain't no Antonio Brown. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. That's one game. The other game is at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, where the Philadelphia Eagles are hosting the Minnesota Vikings for the chance to go to the Super Bowl. Eagles are fourth in points allowed, fourth in yards allowed, number one against the rush, relatively suspect against the pass. But their defense is elite in and of itself, just like Minnesota's is, even though Minnesota was number one. So this is going to be some ugly defensive battle. That's what I'm anticipating. Some ugly defensive battle. That's what I'm anticipating. But I got to tell you something. I really, really got to say this. I think Minnesota is so lucky. It's so lucky. I don't see them winning this game. I think Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles going to find a way to pull this out. I think it'll be a nail biter. I can see the Eagles winning this game like 21-20. I think it's going to be that close, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles will prevail because of their defense, because of the home crowd, and because I think their defense will make a play against Minnesota's offense and Case Keenum, which everybody's trying to act like is the second coming of Joe Montana, and I think that they'll find a way, that meaning the Eagles, to get it done. That is what I believe. I ain't going to lie to you, though. I ain't that damn confident about it. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. We'll get into both AFC and NFC championship games. We'll get into both topics, both games. We also need to recognize this before we say anything else. If ever there was a moment when Tom Brady is holding the NFL in the palm of his hands, it is right now. Ladies and gentlemen, last week, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, and Drew Brees all went down. Their replacements are Blake Bortles, Nick Foles, and Case Keenum. If you think for 1 second, after the year that the NFL had, because of Colin Kaepernick's protest and ultimately the president getting involved by turning it into an issue about our American flag, all to irritate and annoy NFL owners who would not let him into their little boys club or their big boys club. As an NFL owner, that's right, I said it. That's what your president did. He had a vendetta against other owners, which they confirmed and acknowledged that they believed. Because that issue was successfully hijacked and because fan interest and ratings interest all dissipated. You have any idea how bad this would be for the National Football League if we had a Super Bowl that was without Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, and Tom Brady? And instead we had Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles or Case Keenum? You talk about ratings nosediving? Oh, my Lord. I don't recall at any time when the NFL ever needed a player more than they need Tom Brady this weekend. And to annoy my buddy Carlton who calls in, it wouldn't surprise me at all if everything was done to facilitate Brady advancing to the Super Bowl within legal means, of course. I'm just saying. 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call in to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. By the way, that diatribe I went on a little bit earlier was Straight Talk Wireless, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. The number to call in to the Stephen A. Smith Show, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's get to some of these calls because I know a lot of people want to talk about a few things, so let's do that. Let's go to Claudia in Cali. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Hello, Claudia. How are you?
Hi, Stephen A. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, thank you so much. How are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm doing great. Go ahead. Talk to me.
I just want you to not underestimate my Pac-12 Bruins, because what Bruin took out Aaron Rodgers this season? Anthony Barr.
Oh,
what Bruin's going to take out Ben from the playoffs was Miles Jack, the Jaguars. And he's going to take out him, and Calais Campbell will
listen,
take out.
Anthony Barr and Miles Jack are no joke. I like them both, but go ahead. What point did you really call up here to make?
Because the Patriots are not going to the Super Bowl. It's going to be the Eagles and the Jaguars.
The Eagles and the Jaguars. So you're telling me it's going to be Blake Bortles against Nick Foles?
Yep, that's what it's going to be, and the Eagles are going to win.
Claudia,
and if they do, Stephen, this year I turn 50, you will take me out to dinner for my 50th birthday.
If what? If the Eagles and the Jaguars win?
The Eagles win, and the Eagles and Jaguars make it to the Super Bowl.
I have to think about it. Claudia. I can't believe that I'm saying this over national radio, but I'll have to check in with someone before I'm allowed to grant you that wish. But I do appreciate the call and the offer. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You take care of yourself. Let me move on from that subject. It's a little bit hot up in here. Let's go to Ryan in Atlanta. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Ryan?
Stephen A., man, thanks for taking my call.
No problem. What's up?
Hey, man, I gotta say, I don't know what kind of trickery the NFL could pull, but I agree with you, bro. If Nick Foles and Case Keenum are in the Super Bowl, it's gonna be ugly.
No. It can't be both. It'll be one or the other against Blake Bortles. That's the only scenario that can happen. That Tom Brady ain't there. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. No, but yeah, exactly. Or Blake Bortles. Either one of. If you're right, you got to have two. That's gonna be ugly, man. If Tom Brady doesn't get in there, so I don't know what the NFL gonna do. I think all this scandal with his hand has something to do with it. But I don't know, man. It's going to be ugly, bro. In the NFL, with all the problems they've had this year, it's just going downhill, looks like.
I have never seen the NFL in a more vulnerable position than they are right now. I mean, after Deflategate threatened to mar last year before Brady came back from his 4-game suspension, ran roughshod through the league, got to the Super Bowl, and won it, overcoming a 28-3 deficit against the Atlanta Falcons. The guy comes back this year, is playing and having an MVP caliber season, and now he's holding the NFL in the palm of his hands. Because I'm telling you right now, if Tom Brady's not in the Super Bowl, since Big Ben and Drew Brees and Matt Ryan all got knocked out, especially Brees and Big Ben, if Tom Brady ain't in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks and in 16 days, I got to tell y'all, NFL is going to be in a bad spot. I'm telling you right now, the ratings ain't going to be the same. I don't care what anybody says. I just don't care. I appreciate the call, Ryan. Thank you so much. Carlton in Tampa, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, man.
I have a dream, Stephen A., and it's a Super Bowl without Tom Brady in it.
Oh, my goodness.
But it's probably going to turn into my nightmare when he gets in there. But I'm feeling a little better. I did my research on Tony Steratore, the back judge, who I predicted is going to throw at least 3 flags on Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Of course, no flags were thrown on them for either defensive holding or pass interference last week against the Steelers, even though they mug them. But I gotta say, I'm feeling good. He did the Carolina game earlier this year against the Patriots, where Carolina beat the Patriots. There was only 1 flag thrown in that entire game against Carolina. He threw it, a defensive pass interference on Gronkowski, but they'd actually thrown an offensive pass interference call on Gronkowski the play before, and that was the only penalty on Carolina in that game. Steratore also did the Denver Broncos Patriots AFC Championship game 2 years ago, and I remember Gronk complaining about how he'd been mugged and no flags were coming out. So I'm feeling a little bit better here, Stephen A.
Well, listen, you're feeling a little bit better because you're rooting against the Patriots, and I hear you. But the flip side to it is that this is the AFC Championship game. And like I told you, listen, the NFL can't afford to not have Brady in the Super Bowl. Not this one, Carlton. Not this Super Bowl. You can't have Blake Bortles. You can't have Blake Bortles against Nick Foles or Case Keenum and tell everybody to look forward to a Super Bowl. You just can't do it.
If they don't throw flags, Jacksonville's got a chance. And what it is it's the second best defense in terms of takeaways. Jacksonville had 33 takeaways this year against the second best in terms of giving them up. The Patriots only had 12 giveaways this year, second best in the NFL. So we'll see who wins there. But I also think it's going to be who can run the ball. Jacksonville, as good as their defense is, they're ranked 26th against the rush by Bill Belichick's favorite metric, which is yards per rush attempt against that defense.
Well, you heard me bring up Deion Lewis, and now he'll need to run the ball effectively in order to neutralize Jacksonville's defense. It can't be a situation where Tom Brady's just dropping back to pass because New England has no running game whatsoever. They'll need a running game in this game so Jacksonville can't drop 7 in the coverage. That was what I proclaimed in the last segment of the show.
You're right. Jacksonville has the second best pass defense by Bill Belichick's favorite metric. So the Patriots are going to try to run the ball against Jacksonville and also get the backs involved on the swing passes. White and Lewis. They're going to try to throw to those backs short passes that are effectively runs. And so we'll see whether or not Jacksonville can run on the Patriots. They should be able to, because the Patriots' rush defense is wretched. 31st in the NFL by yards per rush.
And Leonard Fournette, in case y'all don't know, is a stud.
And that's what the Patriots are going to try to do, stop that run, because they don't have any confidence that Blake Bortles can pass their way into the Super Bowl. So it's going to be rushing attack versus rushing attack and the turnover battle.
I will say this to you. I think Tom Brady's going to throw the ball at least 40-45 times.
I doubt it, unless they're all of the backs.
I think he's going to throw the ball 40 to 45 times, trying to dip and dunk. But that speed that Jacksonville has on its defensive side of the ball, I think you're going to see a lot of misdirection. This is where Tom Coughlin is going to come. He's going to have to come from upstairs and help out his coach in this particular situation, Maroney. That's what I think.
I'll tell you, if Steratore throws more than 1 flag, though, on the Jacksonville secondary, I'm going to be apoplectic on Monday when I call you.
Well, you sound apoplectic now.
Because my dream is Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles. That's my dream, Stephen A. Please make it happen.
But you're lying, Carlton, because you know good and damn well if that happens, you'll barely watch the Super Bowl.
I will enjoy it for once.
Oh, my Lord.
Last year's Super Bowl was so traumatic for me, Stephen A. I'm barely over it now. That was traumatic.
That's right.
Before that, the Seahawks Super Bowl was traumatic for me, Stephen A.
That's right. You're gonna suffer. You're gonna miss the Patriots when they're gone. I'm telling you, if they don't make this Super Bowl, you're gonna regret your words. You're gonna be depressed. You mark it down.
I can sigh of relief. The sun will be out in Tampa, and I'll be feeling good. You're delusional, Stephen A. You're delusional.
You're delusional, Carlton, on this one. You're delusional. You're not appreciating the greatness of the Patriots, but you will, my friend. You will. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk Monday. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. More of your calls on the AFC and NFC Championship game in a minute. Plus, I'm getting into Charles Barkley getting on LeBron James. I'll tell you who's right, who's wrong, who has a point in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A., ESPN Radio. By the way, Teddy Bruschi is up next. Bye.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. This man's only got a few minutes, so I'm going to get right to it. 3-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. Now NFL analyst extraordinaire for ESPN, the one and only Teddy Bruschi is on the line with yours truly right now. What's going on, Teddy? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Stephen A. I'm doing well.
How worried are you about the hand injury to Tom Brady? I mean, my Lord, everybody's in panic mode except me. What about you, Teddy?
Well, I don't want to say that Brian Hoyer better get ready because I don't think it's that serious. But it can affect gameplay. I mean, what happens if the quarterback-center exchange? He's trying to take care of the thumb, and he fumbles a quarterback-center exchange. Is that a turnover? What happens if he's less accurate on his passes because he can't grip the ball as well? And, it's a pass defense, and it's a interception on a third down, one less third down conversion. Various things can happen. A quarterback throwing a football to me is like a golf swing, and any little thing can affect it, and accuracy is big for Tom Brady and the Patriots. We'll have to wait and see Sunday.
Is that your biggest concerns for the Patriots in this particular game, or is there something else on your mind that you believe your former team needs to be concerned about?
I played in those games. I mean, against the New York Giants and how they had a formidable front four rushing Brady and getting to him. And when they beat us in 2007 in the Super Bowl, Tom Coughlin was the coach then. Tom Coughlin is the GM there now. He's got guys like Ngakoue, Fowler. Inside, he's got Malik Jackson, Calais Campbell, those type of guys. Different names, same formula. Coughlin knows it. So this is no walk in the park. This is a very tough football team in Jacksonville, but they just have a similar formula to what the New York Giants had. So no, I'm not 100% confident in this game for them.
We're talking to Teddy Bruschi right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. I assume you have the Patriots winning this game. I assume that because I don't believe a team, even with a stout running game led by Leonard Fournette, is going to be enough to beat New England with Blake Bortles, because I don't believe that the New England Patriots defense is going to make the same mistakes Pittsburgh's defense made.
I agree. I'd say once Blake Bortles gets out of the pocket and scrambles for 8 to 10 yards and gets a first down on third down. Besides that, they are being told every single second of every single day about keeping him in the pocket in critical situations, especially making him throw the football, and that's what they'll prevent from happening is that scramble from Blake Bortles. The way he did it against Pittsburgh, those easy check down passes, those type of things will be taken away. I do want to see how safeties, Patrick Chung, Devin McCourty, will they be able to tackle Fournette when he breaks through, because it's going to happen. Good offensive line, great running back, one-on-one tackle is important.
Let's transition to the NFC conference, Teddy Bruschi, because we've got the Minnesota Vikings lucking their way to the NFC championship game as far as I'm concerned. They're getting set to go up against the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Break this down for me, this matchup, who you got and why.
Well, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. I like them at home. I mean, I'm going because of their defense and how strong I think it is. People forget about it. The front four. Should you call it the front five, front six, or front seven? Because they just rotate them in over and over again, stopping the run, getting pressure on the passer. I mean, I just like that formula. Nick Foles also. I mean, I love the way Peterson started the game last week. Even though it was a duck, he was like, you know what, Nick, we're going to show everybody we got your back. Throw it deep. And he threw it deep, and it looked awful, but eventually he settled down. Peterson, I think, is a great play caller. He'll have those dink and dunk passes for Nick Foles. Jake Elliott, remember that name, the kicker, the rookie kicker. I think it's going to be 2 to 3 field goals by him. That's the difference, and late in the game to win it.
Here's the thing. when I look at Minnesota, when we talk about Case Keenum, have we slept on this guy? Have we underestimated this guy? Or is this just an anomaly? He's just having a good year, and we need to leave it at that. What are your thoughts about Case Keenum?
I think he's a good player on a great team. He's a solid quarterback. I mean, he is a part of their success. Absolutely. Is he the reason? Absolutely not. So many other reasons you can point to with that Minnesota Viking team. Coaching, running the football, plays of the wide receivers, the defense, all of that. Will Case Keenum throw it into a team meeting? Absolutely. Once in a while he does that. And I think he'll make one of those mistakes during this game.
Who do you think have the better offensive personnel? Vikings or the Eagles? The better
Vikings
offensive personnel.
We'll start at the quarterback. I mean, do you give Case Keenum a little bit of an edge at quarterback just because, he's played a little bit longer than Foles, and Foles still has some settling down to do? Maybe both offensive lines. I know there's some good individual players along the Philadelphia Eagle offensive line. Johnson, Kelsey are good players. I mean, running backs, Eagles have good players. Latavius Murray's a solid player. Also, Jerick McKinnon's made his plays. It's almost a wash in terms of offensive playmakers because I know they got Diggs and Thielen. The Vikings may have the edge in terms of receivers, but I mean Foles and Ertz also have been something you need to stop.
My last question to you, Teddy Bruschi, with Tom Brady playing this Sunday, but the other three quarterbacks being Blake Bortles, Case Keenum, and Nick Foles instead of Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, and Big Ben Roethlisberger, how much do you believe Roger Goodell and the NFL is praying that Brady and the New England Patriots win this Sunday so they can end up in the Super Bowl?
I'll say this. The NFL, until you know how they think. They think in ratings. They're thinking, people in the Super Bowl village and all of that stuff. I mean, the New England Patriots maybe having a Minnesota Viking home game situation, something like that. But absolutely, I think they would be hoping for a Tom Brady Patriot-led team in the Super Bowl.
I'll be watching you on NFL Live this afternoon, buddy. Thanks so much, as always, man. Appreciate your time.
All right, Stephen A. I'm off. Thanks, man.
Take it easy, buddy. The one and only Teddy Bruschi, three-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. By the way, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance with more than 30 unique coverage options available. Progressive, no small business. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. The number to call up is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Lots of stuff to get into because, listen, you heard what he's saying. He ain't going against the Patriots. Because deep in Teddy Bruschi's heart of hearts, he knows good and damn well Tom Brady's all right. All this noise about Tom Brady, oh my Lord, is his pinky hurting or something? Oh, he's hurt. He's not all right. He's not okay. Oh, stop it. Tom Brady's going to be just fine. Tom Brady is 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl, and I'm sorry, a pinky or a finger is going to stop him? I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again. I don't give a damn if he was in a sling, walking around handing out pizzas to everybody until Sunday afternoon. Come Sunday afternoon, he'll be ready because he's Tom Brady. And this is not his first rodeo. Jacksonville can't say the same. Blake Bortles can't say the same. Blake Bortles never won a playoff game until last week. Now, the Jacksonville defense is no joke, and I get all of that, and I respect it. But if you think for 1 second I'm concerned about an injury derailing Tom Brady on his finger, you must be crazy. Or his hand. Oh, my Lord, he handed off the ball awkwardly. He's not okay. Oh, please. Please. He'll be just fine. He'll be just fine. Let's see what Jacksonville's offense does against New England's defense. They won't make the same mistakes the Steelers' defense made. Let's see what happens then. That's what I'm talking about. That's what's on my mind. 888-729-3776. It's 888-SAY-ESPN. Back with more of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Talking AFC, NFC championship game in a minute. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Thanks again to the great Teddy Bruschi coming on the show for us, breaking down what's going to transpire over the AFC and NFC championship games. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, is brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Reminding you, hour number 2, we'll get into more of the Super Bowl talk. R.J. Bell our resident handicap out of Vegas. He'll be on the show with us. Looking forward to getting into that. And I'll get to your phone calls as well. But before I do that, I needed to touch on Charles Barkley. On the NBA show, TNT, award-winning NBA show, TNT, Charles Barkley, my brothers Kenny Smith, Shaquille O'Neal as well, with the great Ernie Johnson. They spoke yesterday, and Charles Barkley was, there were folks that were wondering as to why LeBron James wasn't the leading vote getter for the All-Star game. And he got beat out by the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. And Charles Barkley went on to say, because he's a drama queen, calling LeBron a drama queen. Now, obviously, there are some people who believe that is sacrilegious. How dare you say that about LeBron James? He's the best player in the world. Look at the level of scrutiny he's been subjected to. Look at the age that we're living in, social media and beyond. Michael Jordan and those boys didn't have to deal with Twitter and Facebook and all of this invasive stuff that has permeated our society. Fair enough. And I think, personally speaking, Barkley went too far with those words, per se, because they sounded entirely too incendiary and personal, which harkens you back to LeBron James getting personal with him when LeBron James went too far because he didn't like the criticism from Charles Barkley. So he brought up Vegas, and he brought up gambling debts, and he brought up all of this other stuff, which was completely unnecessary and was wrong for LeBron to do. Because all LeBron had to do was say, I got 3 rings, Charles, you don't. That's all he had to say. But he got tired of it. He was fed up with the criticism from Charles Barkley. So he went a little extra and got a little sensitive and highly offensive. I'm not going to go as far as to say that LeBron James is a drama queen. I'm not going to insult the greatest player in the world like that. Here's what I will say. I've heard players call him that. And so has Charles Barkley. You got a lot of people out there that are incredibly jealous of LeBron, unappreciative of the position that he's put them in terms of getting the money that they get in today's generation of NBA players. The brilliance with which he has marketed himself and turned himself into an astute businessman, and a mover and shaker, even in Hollywood. That's what he's trying to make happen. He's constantly forward thinking. He's looking ahead, and he's a shining example of what players should aspire to be, in terms of parlaying their athletic prowess into a world beyond athletics. LeBron James is the poster child for that, along with Michael Jordan. Fair enough. But what Charles Barkley said isn't completely wrong either, because Charles Barkley has heard that before. I have heard that before. You've got a lot of people that got a problem with LeBron James because they think that what Kevin Durant did, that's why they were so happy with Kevin Durant, because they said he learned it from LeBron, making that move to Golden State. LeBron didn't stay in one place and go through the trials and tribulations and ultimately elevate himself to championship stature. He skipped town and joined forces with D. Wade and Chris Bosh. You got a lot of people that don't believe that LeBron deserves the accolades that he gets. You got a lot of people in the NBA who don't believe that he's treated in a fashion that they're treated in. A lot of them think he gets preferential treatment. I'm here to tell you, LeBron James will tell you, you must be on crack with the scrutiny that he is subjected to on a daily basis. But there are a lot of dudes in the NBA that thinks he's disingenuous. They think he's a bit phony. They think that, I believe that he constantly tries to control the narrative. I don't think he's phony and all that other stuff that people try to say about him, but he does try to control the narrative at all times. At all times. And considering the combination of those things that I just told you others felt about him, that's where the drama queen comment would come from. My thing is, there's one thing for me personally that disgusts me about LeBron. And it's one thing above all else. I'm not going to call him a drama queen again because I don't feel that way. But I can't stand how he'll sit there and talk about basketball when he's doing great. But when he's struggling and you talk to him about those struggles, he'll bring up kids and being a role model and all. Yeah, we respect that. And we know you those things. But we're talking about this bad game that you had the last week, assuming that something like that happened. And he tries to change the narrative in that regard. That's all that annoys me about him. I don't think he deserves the rest of the stuff. But I must admit, a lot of folks do. Hour number 2 up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, coming at you as I love to do every weekday. Over the airways of ESPN Radio, 250-plus markets across the United States of America. And, of course, Sirius XM, ESPN Radio, Channel 80. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever before. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Lots of stuff to get into in hour number 2, revisiting Charles Barkley attacking LeBron James, revisiting the conversation about the AFC NFC Championship games. R.J. Bell, our resident handicapper, from pregame.com out of Vegas. He will be on the show with us in approximately 13 minutes or so. Of course, I'm going to get into a particular player in the NBA that I don't believe is appreciated nearly as much as he should. And I will definitely touch on that in hour number 2. Probably re-air my final take from First Take on ESPN today. So all of those things I'm going to get into as well, but not before I go to this story that I consider a non-story, but nevertheless, it's percolating over the national news wires and throughout the airwaves, and I have an obligation to give to you what people have deemed important, and that is the health status of Tom Brady. Now, I have been on the record stating I don't give a damn if he's in a sling handing out pizzas with his one good hand until Sunday at 3 o'clock. It don't matter to me. He's Tom Brady. He's going to be ready, and he's going to be just fine. But for some reason, there's a level of urgency that the national media has attached to Tom Brady, so much so that Tom Brady addressed the media just a few minutes ago, speaking about that injury, speaking about his status for this Sunday's AFC Championship game. So far be it for me to get in the way of what you all deem news, and that's the injury that I consider to be a bogus non-injury of Tom Brady. Listen to the 5-time champion speaking to the media just a few minutes ago.
I'm not talking about that.
Did you practice today?
I was out there.
For the whole practice?
Yeah.
How was practice?
It was fun.
How much are you looking forward to Sunday?
What's that?
How much are you looking forward to the opportunity Sunday?
It's a great challenge. I think the team's worked hard to get to this point, and it'll be a great game. Yeah. We're playing against a really good team that's good in all phases, and we're going to have to play really well.
You have to be at the top of your game on Sunday to beat this team?
Absolutely. It's the best team we faced all year. And, they're here for a reason. They obviously, are a top-ranked defense in the league, some great players at all levels, and, really well coached, scoring a lot of points. So we're going to have to play really well.
Tom, how confident are you that you will be playing on Sunday?
We'll see.
Does it worry you at all that you miss the practice when you have to be at the top of your game to play this game?
Yeah, I'd always rather practice. Yeah, absolutely.
Are you confident you'll be at the top of your game on Sunday, physically capable?
We'll see.
Would you mind reflecting a little bit on your relationship, your friendship with Josh McDaniels, how close you guys have been since you started working together, basically when you both got to the organization?
Yeah, he's been a great coach and a great friend, and I think he's so well prepared, gets me prepared every week. He's so diligent, and he's just a great coach. And, I love playing for him. I love working with him. And, we've had a lot of fun together.
Some people said that at practice, you and Matt Patricia go at it in a good way. Could you talk a little bit about that you give him a little bit of smack and you give it right back?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of, there's a lot of that. So he's a defense coordinator, so try to keep things lively in practice and a little friendly competition and try to get everyone juiced up a little bit.
Why are you wearing gloves to the press conference?
I've worn them before.
When you're managing an injury, is it more of a functionality of holding, gripping, throwing, or is it pain management whenever you've dealt with injury in the past?
They're all different. It's football.
What exactly happened on Wednesday? The collision that you had with the game?
I'm not talking about it. Yeah. Is that it?
Is there anything you can share about the next couple of days? What will determine the status between now and kickoff?
I have no idea.
How much similarity do you see in the Jaguars scheme with Seahawks in the past?
A little bit different. I think they definitely do some different things schematically, coverage-wise, front-wise. Players are a little bit different, so it's a very unique challenge. I think their front's great. Their linebackers are very instinctive, very fast, and great cover guys in the secondary. So ball hawking defense, they strip it off you, they sack you. They scored, I think, 8 or 9 touchdowns this year on defense. So, they're a great defense.
Tom, why are you wearing gloves inside?
She already asked that.
Tom, you've been a high-five guy in the past. Is it safe to say that you're going to be a fist pump guy for the rest of the weekend?
We'll see.
You got an opportunity to see Brian Hoyer take first-team snaps yesterday. How did he look?
Brian, he's always looked good. Brian does a great job.
Have you worked with him to help prepare for the possibility that you might not play? Help prepare him to start?
I mean, we're in the same meetings every day. We're sitting right next to each other. So whatever I'm hearing or saying, he's hearing the same thing.
Have you played in a game in more pain than you're in right now?
I've played in a lot of games with pain, so.
Have you ever thrown the ball with gloves? Have you ever played a game in gloves?
It's been a long time.
You said in the past that you don't.
He said 2 questions. See ya. Thank you.
That was Tom Brady talking to the media. I got to admit to you, just listening to that, let me explain on one hand what because I think a lot of times people get caught up in you either for or against the media as a fan listening to something along those lines. Here's my thing, and I want to say this is separate and apart from Tom Brady because I had no problem with what I heard Tom Brady say today. Normally, I would have a problem, and here is why. I am one of those people who believes that the media nor anyone else has a right to know your personal business about your personal life. I don't give it. To me, you got a right to curse the media out if they came up to you asking you about your wife, your girlfriend, your mama, your family. Like when Tom Brady's mom, when we learned that she was ill, he had every right not to ever talk about that. That's their private, personal business, no matter what he was going through, because that affects a life beyond himself. Even in a situation like that, they may have had an effect on him emotionally as he was playing the game. That's still so personal that if he decided that he never wanted to talk about it, it's none of anybody's business. I know from experience with my mom. God rest her wonderful soul. I get that. I understand stuff like that. But I think that what you do as it pertains to your job, which the public patronizes by paying to see, whether it's live and in person or on television with NFL packages and beyond, I think if a player is injured, you have the right to know. I think if a player, how the player sustained the injury, you have a right to know. I think the status of a player, you have the right to know. I think you have a right to know all of that because that's strictly about the game. Here's where the exception comes in. Tom Brady trying to win an AFC championship game this Sunday. You don't need to give the Jacksonville Jaguars any more evidence than necessary about exactly what's wrong, because they could potentially use it against them. I do understand that. I do get that. And there are exceptions to that rule. Generally speaking, I got a problem. Let's say, for example, if a player got in trouble and he got, mired with a sexual assault charge or something like that, and a player gave a problem about asking a question about the sport, I'd be like, how's those charges coming along? How you dealing with it? Because that's my way of saying to them, would you rather talk about that or basketball or football in this case? I'm trying to ask you about the sport. I don't want to know about all of that. But since you don't want to answer about that, maybe I should get personal. That's my attitude. Because you should be able to ask them anything about the sport they're playing. But there are exceptions. And I thought that Tom Brady, being very unrevealing, I had no problem with it in this particular situation. He's about to go up against the Jacksonville Jaguars for the AFC Championship in a little more than 48 hours. He don't want to talk about too much. I don't blame him. Especially if he got to get out there and play. I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call, and I'll get back to your phone calls in a little bit, but not before I get to my resident handicapper out of Vegas. His name is RJ Bell, and he's up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. It's my honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line. He's with me every Friday during the NFL season. He's done an outstanding job for us all year long. It will continue today. He is the founder for pregame.com, the official exclusive odds provider to the Associated Press. His Twitter handle is at RJ in Vegas. I'm talking about the great one, RJ Bell. He's right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Thank you so much. Two good games. Very interesting games, Stephen A.
Yeah, I'm looking at stuff, just some general topics you have highlighted here for me, and I want to share it with my audience. It says here, you got topics here like famous better in action. What does that mean? What's that about?
You know, this was interesting. I'm not sure if we talked about it. During the World Series, there was a bettor that came to Vegas, and he started betting big money, and he let it ride every game. And he won every game up through game 6, and then he didn't bet game 7. So this guy won multiple millions of dollars. Well, since the World Series, he hasn't been in town. Well, just yesterday, I had a contact at one of the sports books. I got a report he made his first bet over $100,000 since the World Series, and it was actually on a UFC match, the heavyweight championship, and he has Ngannou as the favorite. He made a $100,000 bet on him yesterday. First bet since the World Series.
Wow. Another topic you had highlighted here was last week's amazing Vikings ending against the New Orleans Saints. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, because on one hand, as a fan of either team or just a fan of the NFL, what an amazing ending. Mm-hmm. What was a little bit even more interesting or additionally interesting was the extra point. Because after Minnesota scored the touchdown, they were up by 5 points. Well, as you could guess it, the point spread on the game was 5.5 points. But they had to kick the extra point, right? So everyone that had Minnesota tickets are waiting, kick the extra point. Well, as you know, Stephen A., they came out Minnesota and knelt. They did not kick the extra point, and thus all of those Minnesota bettors lost. And if they would have just kicked the extra point, they would have won. And literally tens of millions of dollars around the globe swung on that one decision.
That's amazing, because I was absolutely positively disgusted that the NFL even made the Saints come back out onto the field so Minnesota could kick the extra point. I thought it deflated the moment. It got in the way. It really, really annoyed me, but that's a real interesting point that you bring up. We're talking to RJ Bell right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Talk to me about the conference title game history category.
Usually throughout the season, and we've done, 4 years now, I am an underdog bettor, where pretty much 7 out of 10 times I'm going to like the underdog in a game. The reason is favorites oftentimes have questionable motivation. Yeah, they're an 8-point favorite. They want to win the game for sure, but they don't care if they win by 4, 7, 10. Thus, underdogs tend to do better. But in the playoffs, favorites tend to do better. Why? Because every favorite is totally motivated, right? Right now, New England, even though they're a significant favorite, you know they're going to play their very best, full effort, full focus. And history backs that up. Going back to 1978, way back then, in the conference championship games, the favorite is covered 58% of the time. So something to consider as we get to the games.
You want us to also consider the quarterback experience in all of this. Why is that?
Well, listen, anyone that's a casual fan can see Tom Brady has experience the other three guys don't in the playoffs, but the numbers are eye-popping, Stephen A. Tom Brady's career in the playoffs, 35 games, 66 touchdown passes. The other three quarterbacks combined, 5 games, 5 touchdown passes. And I would make the following point. If any quarterback other than Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl this year, so the other 3 teams other than the Patriots, it will be the least pedigreed quarterback in 15 years. Since Brad Johnson won the Super Bowl 15 years ago, any of these 3 other quarterbacks would be the least pedigreed to win a Super Bowl.
How does Vegas feel about my notion that if Tom Brady doesn't make it to this Super Bowl, it'll be some of the worst ratings in Super Bowl history we have seen?
I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but I think this is worthy of consideration. Has there been a game in the last 10 years that had more impact on the bottom line than New England making this Super Bowl? Because we've all heard the media narrative. NFL is down 9% or so this year, TV ratings, down more than that over the last 2 years. Now, if it's Jacksonville versus either of these NFC teams, it would be one of the least interesting, you must say, for the casual fan, Super Bowls of the last 10 years. And thus, imagine if, Stephen A., it's like a 10 million viewer drop with Jacksonville versus whomever. Wouldn't that just feed the narrative in such a horrible way for the NFL? Thus, I think to the bottom line, the NFL is so motivated to have the Patriots in this game.
RJ Bell right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. So let's get into the game. The New England Patriots favored by 9.5 hosting Jacksonville. And this is even with Tom Brady and his injured hand, RJ. What's going on with that? 9.5?
Yeah, and it's actually just recently dropped a little bit down to 7.5. And I just got 2 calls, and you know me, I never say, this is probably the first time I've ever said this on your show. I got 2 calls in the last couple hours from guys I really respect saying Brady's hand is hurt more than we think. And if you actually look at the betting odds, they're dropping and moving towards 7. So my sense is, and you never know about, even if it's from 2 sources, right? You never know. But my sense is we're going to hear in the next day or so that Brady is going to be more limited than we thought. Now, I think he's still going to play.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
You don't?
I don't believe it, not even. I think it's the biggest bogus story. I mean, this is just how I feel. I believe that the worse Brady is, the less we'd be hearing about it. Because I think Bill Belichick would do everything he could to keep that under wraps. I think the fact that this story is gaining legs and it's percolating even more, I think that gives me every indication that this is bogus. It's not nearly as serious as people are trying to make it.
But I agree with you that whatever Brady and Belichick say, we should probably think the opposite. But how do you hide missing practice? When someone missed multiple practices, how do you hide that?
Well, it's not a matter of that. Sometimes you go like this. All right, I'm a little hurt, but you know what? He could use the rest. He can relax because Jacksonville's going to put some heat on you now. They're going to put some heat on you. You understand? So to me, getting himself, his mind ready and his body massaged to the point where it's at 100%, I think that's more important than reps right now. But Jacksonville.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Stephen A., but historically, has Tom Brady ever sat out practices before conference championship games?
That's true, but I'm not saying that there's nothing that happened. I'm saying that it's being overblown. That's what I suspect.
And that's what I suspected even 4 hours ago. And again, I'm not saying I'm sure, but I would be willing to bet you a hoagie sandwich that we're going to find out that he's more hurt than we thought.
All right, we can do that. RJ Bell right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Last game to get into, we got to get into the NFC Championship game between the Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. Talk to me about that one. What's the spread on that game, and where do you stand with it? Where does Vegas stand with it?
Minnesota on the road, favored by 3 points, a field goal. The line was 3.5.
Right.
So the money's been on Philadelphia, and this is what we call a pros versus Joes game. The pros are on Philadelphia. The Joes, the average bettors, are on the Vikings. I think the real story of this game is how much flatness can we expect out of Minnesota? And let me ask you what you think, because the reality is in the playoffs, you expect every team to be fired up, fever pitch, but off a game that was a true miracle win, do you think Minnesota's a little flat?
I think they will be, but that's also because I don't think offensively that they're very good. I think defensively they will be ready, and it'll be a nail biter, but I'm not a believer in Case Keenum like so many people have grown to be. I'm just not there.
And I think with Keenum, if you look at just this year, if that's the only data we had, second best QBR. ESPN's number is the QBR, second best Keenum. If you look across his career, this is a backup. So I think that question really is the question. And the last thing I would say about this is I think Philadelphia answered so many questions last week. Because entering it, we didn't know how Foles would play because, quite frankly, since he replaced Wentz, he didn't play well at all. He underperformed in the regular season. So we had big questions about Foles and, quite frankly, big questions about the rest of the organization because the Eagles hadn't won playoff games for quite a while. The fact that they played as a 3-point underdog against Atlanta, Foles played well, and they won the game. Now they're a 3-point underdog again. Psychologically, they just have to do what they've already proven they can do. I think that win helps Philadelphia a ton, and I do lean towards Philly in this game, +3.
So you're leaning towards Philly. Who are you leaning towards with Jacksonville and New England?
Ooh, I tell you this. I mean, even a couple hours ago, I really liked New England in this game. So I'm going to go with the under. There's the over-under total number of points. I think if Brady's hurt, New England can still play well, but they're going to be more conservative. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, would be my opinion. And the total is about 46. So I expect it to be less than 46 points.
But you're picking New England?
I would, to win the game for sure.
Okay, so it's Tom Brady in New England versus Philadelphia Eagles, in your estimation, a rematch of the Super Bowl in Jacksonville.
That'd be a good game.
We'll see. Thanks a lot, RJ. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Stephen A.
Thanks a lot. The one and only RJ Bell, founder for pregame.com, the official odds provider for the Associated Press. His Twitter handle is @RJ in Vegas. He's our resident handicapper right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Back to your calls in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
The Stephen A. Smith Show. No matter what the weather is outside, you can always brighten the day with 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. So go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN, please. 888-729-3776 is always the number to call into the Stephen A. Smith Show. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Before I get back to the calls, I got two things that I need to address. Number one, the Oakland Raiders were found in compliance with the Rooney Rule by the NFL. For those of you who don't know, the Rooney Rule is a rule that mandates that NFL teams need to interview minorities. Rooney Rule is a National Football League policy that requires league teams to interview minority candidates for head coaching and senior football operations jobs. It is sometimes cited as an example of affirmative action, though there is no quota or preference given to minorities in the hiring of candidates. This is what they say about it. Okay? And it was established in 2003, for those of you wondering how long it's been in play. Here's what annoys me about that. There was never an issue as to whether or not the Oakland Raiders had violated the Rooney Rule. We all knew that Reggie McKenzie, the general manager, who happens to be black, for the Oakland Raiders, had interviewed minority candidates. The issue was, why the hell didn't you publicize it? Meaning publicize them. Because the objective was to make sure that minority candidates get looked at. Now, I know some people sit there and say you don't want to be some dog or pony show, and you don't want to just be paraded out there, every time somebody wants to interview you, and as a result, you just somebody that's used as a prop. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I understand that sensitivity, but it's important to recognize that part of the need for the Rooney Rule was so guys would come out of the dark and folks would get an opportunity to know them and identify themselves with a particular minority candidate's work. And us knowing who they are would be very, very helpful. Reggie McKenzie knew this. John Wooten knew this. John Wooten said himself, the Raiders were never in violation of the Rooney Rule. That was never an issue. The issue was, is it right for you to keep those interviews in the dark just because you knew that John Gruden was going to get the job? The answer would be yes, because it's John Gruden getting the job. You know that you're not going to be a candidate, but it's still important. In instances like that, ladies and gentlemen, if it were not for John Gruden, this is the person we would think about hiring right here. And the Raiders didn't do that. And that to me was problematic. But we could touch on that another day. Another item that I wanted to touch on was Damian Lillard for the Portland Trailblazers. He got snubbed yet again. He's not an all-star starter, and that's understood. He ain't Steph Curry, he ain't Russell Westbrook, he ain't James Harden. We got that. But Damian Lillard averaging 25 points per game. Damian Lillard would miss the big shot big time. I went on the air today, and I called for him to demand to be traded. Because my argument was, playing in the Pacific Northwest, he doesn't get any love. And the Portland Trailblazers, with their sensitive selves, tweets out, somebody's always looking for attention. First of all, I don't need any more attention. I have a national television show. 2 hours live every day, plus a national radio show. 2 hours live every day. Secondly, and more importantly, the big problem is this. Why the hell do I get Damian Lillard more attention than the Portland Trailblazers do? Maybe if y'all want a little bit more, maybe if you marketed him a little bit better, maybe if you done a little something extra, Damian Lillard would get the love that he deserves. This brother hits big-time shots. He's great under the clutch, in the clutch, rather. He's averaging 25 a game. He's a career 22-point-per-game scorer. And Lonzo Ball is getting 30,000 more votes than him. Because Lonzo Ball is in a big market. I wasn't trying to cast any aspersions on the Portland Trailblazers. I was saying you're in the 22nd largest market, which is Portland. Lonzo's in number 2, L.A. Plus he's got a daddy that bloviates about him. And Lonzo Ball, who ain't on Damian Lillard's level by a long shot, gets 30,000 more votes. You know why? Because he's in L.A. wearing that purple and gold. That's why. Could y'all imagine if Damian Lillard was in the New York market? Could you imagine if the New York Knicks had Damian Lillard? Could you imagine? Or if the Lakers, instead of having Lonzo Ball, they had Lillard. Could you imagine what a star he would be? We all know the answer to that question. I'll leave it at that. I could go on the Portland Trailblazers, but I know a few people within that organization. I like them. I'm not going to go there. And the great citizens of Portland, Oregon, there's no aspersions, casting any aspersions towards you. Mad respect, great sports town. But if Damian Lillard was in a bigger market with a more recognizable franchise, this would not be an issue. I stand by that. Not intending to hurt anybody's feelings, but I stand by that. Your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Back to the phones before we get on out of here. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's go to Sabrina in Massachusetts. You're live with Stephen A. Going on. How you doing, Sabrina? How's everything?
I'm good, Stephen A. How are you?
I'm
Thank
doing
you
all
so
right.
much for taking my call.
No problem. Go ahead.
Wait, must I say that I love you and I love your show? Love
Thank
First Take, all of that. Much props to you.
Thank you so much. Go
Now,
ahead.
I agree 100% with this fake news from the past. I was saying it, my husband and I were saying it as soon as they started. We was like, okay, they just spraying perfume right now. You know, I agree 100% with this. I think Brady gonna come out Sunday and do Brady. I agree 100%.
I agree. Thank you so much. You know I love the fact that you agree with me, Sabrina. You know I love that. What's your hubby's name?
His name is Tyrone.
Tell him I said what's up.
Yeah, I will tell him. Can I touch on the NBA with LeBron real quick before we hang up?
Please do. Go ahead.
Okay, I believe that all of them really are crybabies, not just LeBron. Because if they came up in the old school days of playing basketball, they all would be crying. This whole thing with the NBA and the refs and the fouls and all that, I think they all would be crying, especially if they went up against the bad boys of Detroit. They all would be crybabies right now, but much sad. But that's all right. That's all right.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful weekend. Let's
You
go to
too.
Chris.
Thank you, Stephen A.
No problem. Let's go to Chris in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Chris.
Hey, Stephen A., 2 quick points real quick. I don't necessarily agree with what Charles Barkley had to say about LeBron being a drama queen, but one thing that sticks out with me regarding LeBron is that he goes to an organization that gives him everything he wants, whether it's swapping out a coach, adding players, whatever the case may be, and he still feels the need to go elsewhere. That's one thing that sticks out. I don't believe Kobe would ever do that. You give him the horses, Kobe's going to go out there and do the best he can to compete and win without throwing this organization.
But if that's how you feel, then that validates what Barkley's saying, because that may be the reason why he said what he said.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, I agree. Well said. And real quick, I have a question. I was reading ESPN article about Kemba Walker potentially being on the trading block.
Yeah.
Where do you feel is the best fix? I believe it's
New York.
Stephen A. I don't believe they have it. Oh,
New
okay.
York.
Okay.
New York. I mean, I'm not sold on Ntilikina. I'm not. I'm just not. He's a solid player. He's long. He can defend. But he's no threat offensively at all. And I need more in New York. I just do. I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Let's go to Christine. You're live at Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. How are you doing, Christine?
I am doing well, kind sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for calling.
First, I have to say I loved you forever. I love your verbal assassinry. It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. Thank you.
But I think that you're deluding yourself a little bit if you think that this Brady story is overblown, because there are people looking at his thumb and looking at the size of the shape of the thumb. There's something going on underneath that glove. And I think they're putting this out there in case they lose so that they can have a little bit of spin and PR control. I'm not saying they're going to lose. I'm not saying that I think that that's going to be a huge factor, but I think you need to take it just a little more seriously than you are.
I will do no such thing, Christine. I have to see it to believe it. I have years upon years of history of watching Brady perform great, okay? And I don't believe Sunday's going to be any different. And I firmly believe, Christine, that if this was more serious, we'd know less, because it's Bill Belichick we're talking about. We'd know less if it was more serious. That's why I don't believe it. That's why I believe the story is bogus, and I will not change my mind on this. But I will be here Monday, Christine, if there is a need to correct me by yours truly. So feel free to call back, and thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it. Rudy in L.A., you're live at Stephen A. Real quick, Rudy, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A. You just now touched on Damian Lillard.
Yep.
And I completely agree with you. He's averaging 25 points. He is a baller, man. And I will never understand why he keep getting snubbed for these all-star teams. And I know they just announced the reserves, not the reserves, but the starters.
Lonzo Ball. I can understand him not being a starter, but Lonzo Ball got 30,000 more votes than him. Lonzo Ball. How does that make sense?
That's sad. And then another thing I want to point, isn't that up to is it the Portland fans supporting him enough? Or
well, listen. They may not have enough fans to support him. You know, you got more people in L.A. than in Portland. They may not have enough to support him. But the bottom line is this. The fact is that he deserves more support and more love than he is receiving. And it's a damn shame. And that's why I said what I said. But I appreciate the call, Rudy. Thank you so much. Let's go to Mike in Denver. You're live at Stephen A. Talk to me real quick, Mike.
I'm just touching on Tom Brady injury as well. You know ain't nothing wrong with him, man, and I believe New England going to blow him out tomorrow. Like you said, it'll be a tragedy without Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Listen, man, we can't afford to. Listen, I've never rooted for Tom Brady in my life stronger than I'm rooting for him right now. We cannot have a Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles or Case Keenum Super Bowl. That cannot happen, Mike. It cannot happen.
That's right.
And there's nothing. And I appreciate the call, Mike. Let's talk Monday. Enjoy the weekend. There is nothing that me, nor you, nor football lovers out there, nor NFL lovers out there has done to deserve what we're on the verge of getting. There must not be a Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles, Case Keenum Super Bowl. There must not be, especially with everybody having an elite defense. Jacksonville, Philadelphia, Minnesota. Tom Brady's the only hope there is for an interesting Super Bowl. He's holding the NFL in the palm of his hands. Let's go, Tom Brady. Talk to y'all Monday. Peace. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you right here on ESPN Radio. 250 plus markets across the United States of America. And of course, ESPN Radio on Sirius XM. Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Teddy Bruschi, NFL analyst extraordinaire, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. He will be on the show a little bit later on today. Talked about these NFC conference championship matchups. And of course, He'll be doing that about 30 minutes past hour number 1. And then, of course, our resident handicapper extraordinaire out of Vegas, R.J. Bell, he'll be on the show with us to handicap the games Vegas style. Looking forward to talking to him as well. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Lots of stuff to get into today. And, of course, I will get into LeBron James and Charles Barkley, calling him a drama queen. I'll respond to that a little bit later on in the show. Plus, at a particular question that I'm interested in presenting to all of you, because I'm interested in hearing your take about that. But like I said, first things first. I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the minority. I am in the minority because I am not caught up in this Tom Brady injury the way everybody else is. I really don't understand it. I'm actually laughing at all of y'all. So let me get this straight. A 5-time champion who's been to about 9 AFC championship games, who's 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl appearance, yet another, who is widely recognized, universally recognized actually, as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, widely recognized as the greatest quarterback ever. I am supposed to believe that this guy named Tom Brady is hurt and he's not practicing. And you know what? He might not be ready for Sunday. I mean, y'all make me laugh. I got to admit it. Y'all actually make me laugh. Tom Brady, this is all a hoax to me. I don't believe any of it. Not a second of it. And my producer, hey, Steven, hey, I hear what you're saying. I totally understand. But however, in light of the news that has come out over the last 24 hours, I mean, do you really, really think you haven't moved from your position at all? That's a poor imitation of my producer, Jonathan Winthrop, but that's beside the point. The real point is this. No, I have not moved off my position. I think it's all a smokescreen. I think if there was anything serious, we wouldn't even know that he was injured. I think if it was anything serious, we would know that we've got a boatload of stuff to be worried about. That's what I believe. I think there's absolutely nothing to worry about. Tom Brady will be fine. He will be there, ready to go, ready to handle his business. That is what I believe. Chris Hogan will be ready. Brandon Cooks will be ready. Rob Gronkowski will be ready. Danny Amendola will be ready. Deion Lewis will be ready. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I expect. If Tom Brady's going to have trouble, it's going to be because Jacksonville, which has 55 sacks this season, which was terrorizing one quarterback after another all season long, they don't need to send the house in order to get at Tom Brady. They can rush 4 and drop 7 back into the secondary. They've got those kind of skills, that kind of athleticism, which says to me that Deion Lewis is going to need to run the ball relatively effectively. That's what he's going to need to do. Because if he does that, then you got to stack the line of scrimmage a little bit better. And if you do that, that opens up play action, which is going to give Tom Brady more time and more room to operate, which is when he'll be deadly. That is what I foresee. That is what needs to transpire. That is what needs to happen. And if it doesn't go down like that, because they can't run the football effectively, then Tom Brady's going to have a long day because you're going to need to drop back to pass more. You're not going to be able to lean on play action or any other kind of trickery. And as a result, they're going to be able to get at you because those are some rough riders on Jacksonville's defense. I am not trying to disrespect Jacksonville's defense by any stretch of the imagination. I really am not. I know they're big time. They're the number 2 ranked defense in the league. Jalen Ramsey is no joke. Calais Campbell is no joke. Malik Jackson is no joke. Telvin Smith returned a touchdown, off of a fumble, a sack fumble by Big Ben Roethlisberger. Miles Jack had an interception against Roethlisberger last week. Barry Church is a former Cowboy, and I'm still sitting here praising him. That's how big time the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is. Barry Church, a former Cowboy, is on this roster, and I'm not accusing him of contamination. That's how big time Jacksonville's defense is. So I got news for you. Make no mistake about it. Big things are on the way. Jacksonville's defense is going to be here for a little while. But am I supposed to believe that Blake Bortles is going to beat Tom Brady? I don't believe it. Because I don't believe the Patriots are going to let Leonard Fournette beat him. I know he's going to penetrate the line of scrimmage. It's going to come down to McCourty and Chang and those boys and whether or not they can tackle. Chung, rather. I understand. I get it. But I believe they'll pull it off, and I believe the New England Patriots are going to do everything necessary and everything within their power to ensure that Blake Bortles is going to have to be the one who beats them if they're going to miss out on getting to the Super Bowl. In Foxborough, no less. I believe that's what's going to happen. And I don't believe it will. And by the way, A.J. Bouye, listen, he's going to have a better week this week because he ain't going against Antonio Brown. Because we saw what Antonio Brown did to him last week. Brandon Cooks ain't no Antonio Brown. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. That's one game. The other game is at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, where the Philadelphia Eagles are hosting the Minnesota Vikings for the chance to go to the Super Bowl. Eagles are fourth in points allowed, fourth in yards allowed, number one against the rush, relatively suspect against the pass. But their defense is elite in and of itself, just like Minnesota's is, even though Minnesota was number one. So this is going to be some ugly defensive battle. That's what I'm anticipating. Some ugly defensive battle. That's what I'm anticipating. But I got to tell you something. I really, really got to say this. I think Minnesota is so lucky. It's so lucky. I don't see them winning this game. I think Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles going to find a way to pull this out. I think it'll be a nail biter. I can see the Eagles winning this game like 21-20. I think it's going to be that close. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles will prevail because of their defense, because of the home crowd, and because I think their defense will make a play against Minnesota's offense and Case Keenum, which everybody's trying to act like is the second coming of Joe Montana. And I think that they'll find a way, that meaning the Eagles, to get it done. That is what I believe. I ain't going to lie to you, though. I ain't that damn confident about it. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. We'll get into both AFC and NFC championship games. We'll get into both topics, both games. We also need to recognize this before we say anything else. If ever there was a moment when Tom Brady is holding the NFL in the palm of his hands, it is right now. Ladies and gentlemen, last week, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, and Drew Brees all went down. Their replacements are Blake Bortles, Nick Foles, and Case Keenum. If you think for 1 second, after the year that the NFL had, because of Colin Kaepernick's protest and ultimately the president getting involved by turning it into an issue about our American flag, all to irritate and annoy NFL owners who would not let him into their little boys club or their big boys club. As an NFL owner, that's right, I said it. That's what your president did. He had a vendetta against other owners, which they confirmed and acknowledged that they believed. Because that issue was successfully hijacked and because fan interest and ratings interest all dissipated. You have any idea how bad this would be for the National Football League if we had a Super Bowl that was without Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, and Tom Brady? And instead, we had Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles or Case Keenum? You talk about ratings nosediving? Oh, my Lord. I don't recall at any time when the NFL ever needed a player more than they need Tom Brady this weekend. And to annoy my buddy Carlton who calls in, it wouldn't surprise me at all if everything was done to facilitate Brady advancing to the Super Bowl within legal means, of course. I'm just saying.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man,
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. By the way, that diatribe I went on a little bit earlier was Straight Talk Wireless, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. The number to call in to the Stephen A. Smith Show, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's get to some of these calls because I know a lot of people want to talk about a few things, so let's do that. Let's go to Claudia in Cali. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Hello, Claudia. How are you?
Hi, Stephen A. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, thank you so much. How you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm doing great. Go ahead. Talk to me.
I just want you to not underestimate my Pac-12 Bruins because what Bruin took out Aaron Rodgers this season? Anthony Barr. What Bruin's going to take out Ben from the playoffs was Miles Jack, the Jaguars. And he's going to take out him and Calais Campbell.
Well, listen, Anthony Barr and Miles Jack are no joke. I like them both, but go ahead. What point did you really call up here to make?
Because the Patriots are not going to the Super Bowl. It's going to be the Eagles and the Jaguars.
The Eagles and the Jaguars. So you're telling me it's going to be Blake Bortles against Nick Foles?
Yep, that's what it's going to be, and the Eagles are going to win. Claudia, and if they do, Stephen, this year I turn 50, you will take me out to dinner for my 50th birthday.
If what? If the Eagles and the Jaguars win?
The Eagles win, and the Eagles and Jaguars make it to the Super Bowl.
I have to think about it. Claudia. I can't believe that I'm saying this over national radio, but I'll have to check in with someone before I'm allowed to grant you that wish. But I do appreciate the call and the offer. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You take care of yourself. Let me move on from that subject. It's a little bit hot up in here. Let's go to Ryan in Atlanta. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Ryan?
Stephen A., man. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem. What's up?
Hey, man, I got to say, I don't know what kind of trickery the NFL could pull, but I agree with you, bro. If Nick Foles and Case Keenum are in the Super Bowl, it's going to be ugly.
No. It can't be both. It'll be one or the other against Blake Bortles. That's the only scenario that can happen. That Tom Brady ain't there. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. No, but yeah, exactly. Or Blake Bortles. Either one of. If you're right, you got to have two. That's going to be ugly, man. If Tom Brady doesn't get in there, so I don't know what the NFL going to do. I think all of this scandal with his hand has something to do with it, but I don't know, man. It's going to be ugly, bro. In the NFL, with all the problems they've had this year, it's just going downhill. Looks like.
I have never seen the NFL in a more vulnerable position than they are right now. I mean, after Deflategate threatened to mar last year before Brady came back from his 4-game suspension, ran roughshod through the league, got to the Super Bowl, and won it, overcoming a 28-3 deficit against the Atlanta Falcons. The guy comes back this year, is playing and having an MVP caliber season, and now he's holding the NFL in the palm of his hands. Because I'm telling you right now, if Tom Brady's not in the Super Bowl, since Big Ben and Drew Brees and Matt Ryan all got knocked out, especially Brees and Big Ben, if Tom Brady ain't in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, in 16 days, I got to tell y'all, NFL is going to be in a bad spot. I'm telling you right now, the ratings ain't going to be the same. I don't care what anybody says. I just don't care. I appreciate the call, Ryan. Thank you so much. Carlton in Tampa, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, man.
I have a dream, Stephen A., and it's a Super Bowl without Tom Brady in it.
Oh, my goodness.
It's probably going to turn into my nightmare when he gets in there. But I'm feeling a little better. I did my research on Tony Sterator, the back judge, who I predicted is going to throw at least 3 flags on Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Of course, no flags were thrown on them for either defensive holding or pass interference last week against the Steelers, even though they mug them. But I gotta say, I'm feeling good. He did the Carolina game earlier this year against the Patriots, where Carolina beat the Patriots. There was only one flag thrown in that entire game against Carolina. He threw it, a defensive pass interference on Gronkowski, but they'd actually thrown an offensive pass interference call on Gronkowski the play before, and that was the only penalty on Carolina in that game. Steratore also did the Denver Broncos Patriots AFC Championship game 2 years ago, and I remember Gronk complaining about how he'd been mugged and no flags were coming out. So I'm feeling a little bit better here, Stephen A.
Well, listen, you're feeling a little bit better because you're rooting against the Patriots, and I hear you. But the flip side to it is that this is the AFC Championship game. And like I told you, listen, the NFL can't afford to not have Brady in the Super Bowl. Not this one, Carlton. Not this Super Bowl. You can't have Blake Bortles. You can't have Blake Bortles against Nick Foles or Case Keenum and tell everybody to look forward to a Super Bowl. You just can't do it.
If they don't throw flags, Jacksonville's got a chance. And what it is it's the second best defense in terms of takeaways. Jacksonville had 33 takeaways this year against the second best in terms of giving them up. The Patriots only had 12 giveaways this year, second best in the NFL. So we'll see who wins there. But I also think it's going to be who can run the ball. You know, Jacksonville, as good as their defense is, they're ranked 26th against the rush by Bill Belichick's favorite metric, which is yards per rush attempt against that defense.
Well, you heard me bring up Deion Lewis, and now he'll need to run the ball effectively in order to neutralize Jacksonville's defense. It can't be a situation where Tom Brady's just dropping back the pass because New England has no running game whatsoever. They'll need a running game in this game so Jacksonville can't drop 7 in the coverage. That was what I proclaimed in the last segment of the show.
You're right. Jacksonville has the second best pass defense by Bill Belichick's favorite metric. So the Patriots are going to try to run the ball against Jacksonville and also get the backs involved on the swing passes. You know, White and Lewis. They're going to try to throw to those backs short passes that are effectively runs. And so we'll see whether or not Jacksonville can run on the Patriots. They should be able to, because the Patriots' rush defense is wretched. 31st in the NFL by yards per rush.
And Leonard Fournette, in case y'all don't know, is a stud.
And you know that's what the Patriots are going to try to do, stop that run, because they don't have any confidence that Blake Bortles can pass their way into the Super Bowl. So it's going to be rushing attack versus rushing attack and the turnover battle.
I will say this to you. I think Tom Brady's going to throw the ball at least 40, 45 times.
I doubt it, unless they're all to the backs.
I think he's going to throw the ball 40 to 45 times trying to dip and dunk. But that speed that Jacksonville has on its defensive side of the ball, I think you're going to see a lot of misdirection. This is where Tom Coughlin is going to come. He's going to have to come from upstairs and help out his coach in this particular situation, Maroney. That's what I think.
I'll tell you, if Steratore throws more than one flag, though, on the Jacksonville secondary, I'm going to be apoplectic on Monday when I call you.
Well, you sound apoplectic now.
Because my dream is Blake Bortles versus Nick Foles. That's my dream, Stephen A. Please make it happen.
But you're lying, Carlton, because you know good and damn well if that happens, you'll barely watch the Super Bowl. You know it.
I will enjoy it for once.
Oh, my Lord.
Last year's Super Bowl was so traumatic for me, Stephen A. I'm barely over it now. That was traumatic.
That's right.
Before that, the Seahawks Super Bowl was traumatic for me, Stephen A.
That's right. You're gonna suffer. You're gonna miss the Patriots when they're gone. I'm telling you, if they don't make this Super Bowl, you're gonna regret your words. You're gonna be depressed. You mark it down.
I can sigh a relief. The sun will be out in Tampa, and I'll be feeling good. You're delusional, Stephen A. You're delusional.
You're delusional, Carlton, on this one. You're